morning sun stretched its golden arms over the wide, open plains of Wyoming, painting the land in shades of warmth and dust. The air was thick with the scent of hay and horses, and the hum of the wind whispered through the old wooden fences that surrounded the McRae ranch. In that still moment, a cry pierced the calm, raw, desperate, trembling with pain. "Easy, it hurts," she moaned. The rancher froze mid-step, the rope slipping from his calloused hands, his heart hammering in his chest. Then he whispered softly, voice shaking with compassion, "It'll be over quick." It wasn't what it sounded like. The young woman before him, pale and sweating, wasn't a lover or a stranger. She was someone fighting for her life. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story of courage, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Fearless Grace if you believe in kindness and second chances. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The woman's name was Tessa Hollings, a 25-year-old nurse from the city who had arrived at the ranch only 2 days before, seeking a quiet place to recover from the chaos of her life. She carried a broken spirit and a wound much deeper than the bruises that marked her arms. She had seen too much loss, betrayal, exhaustion, and had come to the countryside to breathe again. But this morning life had other plans. A wild mare, frightened by thunder, had thrown her into the dirt, and the sharp edge of an old plow buried under grass had torn deep into her thigh. The rancher, Colt McRae, a man of 42 with a face carved by sun and sorrow, had found her screaming near the barn. Her blood soaked the earth. His mind flashed to his wife's accident 3 years ago, the night he lost her because he was too late, too afraid. He wasn't going to lose another soul today. He knelt beside her, hands trembling as he pressed his bandana to the wound. Her blue eyes met his, full of pain and panic. "Easy. It hurts," she breathed again. Colt swallowed hard, his voice low but steady. I know. It'll be over quick. You're gonna be fine, Tessa. I promise." Inside the old ranch house, the room smelled of dust and whiskey. He laid her on the couch and tore open his old first aid kit. He hadn't treated anyone since his wife's accident. His rough hands hesitated, hovering above her leg, remembering the way his wife had called his name that night, her voice fading. But Tessa's labored breathing pulled him back. He had no time for ghosts. He grabbed the needle, threaded it with shaking fingers, and began to stitch her wound. Every time the needle pierced her skin, she flinched, tears cutting down her cheeks. Colt's jaw tightened. "You're doing good," he whispered, trying to calm her. His eyes glistened with unshed emotion, half pain, half guilt. He worked fast, his mind screaming that he couldn't fail again. When it was done, he wrapped the bandage tightly and leaned back, sweat dripping down his brow. She had passed out from exhaustion. For a moment, the ranch was silent again. That night, Colt sat by her side in the dim light, watching her chest rise and fall. He didn't know this woman, yet something about her presence stirred a feeling he'd buried long ago. Hope. He had been alone for years, haunted by the silence of a house that once held laughter. His wife, Marla, had died in a storm after falling from her horse, and Colt had blamed himself ever since. He had locked away every memory, every picture, every dream. But Tessa's pain, her quiet strength, had cracked something open in him. When she awoke the next morning, sunlight streaming through the thin curtains, she blinked up at him with confusion. Where am I?" she whispered. "McRae Ranch," Colt said simply. "You got hurt pretty bad. I patched you up." She tried to sit but winced, clutching her bandaged leg. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I shouldn't have," Colt interrupted gently. "Don't be sorry. You're safe here." Over the next few days, Tessa stayed at the ranch, her body healing slowly. Colt helped her walk again, guiding her through the barn and fields. At first, she was quiet, distant, but as the days turned into weeks, she began to open up. She told him about her life in the city, how she had worked endless shifts in a hospital only to lose her fiancé in a car accident last winter. She had saved others for years but couldn't save him. After that, she said softly, "I couldn't breathe there anymore. Everything reminded me of him. I thought coming here would help me forget." Colt listened, his heart heavy. "Sometimes forgetting isn't the answer," he said, his voice low. "Sometimes we just gotta learn how to carry the pain differently." As the days warmed, they found comfort in each other's company. She helped him in the kitchen, laughing when he burned the stew. He taught her how to ride a calmer horse named Willow. In those golden afternoons, they began to heal, not as nurse and patient, but as two broken souls finding pieces of themselves again. One afternoon, as the sky burned orange, Tessa stood by the coral fence, watching the horses run. Colt approached quietly, holding a small box. Inside was a worn-out silver locket. "This belonged to Marla," he said. "I kept it locked away for years, but I think she'd want someone kind to have it." Tessa hesitated, her eyes glistening. "Colt, I can't take this." He smiled faintly. "You already have. You reminded me that life doesn't stop just because we lose someone. It just waits for us to catch up." But peace didn't last long. That night, a storm rolled over the plains, fierce and sudden. Lightning cracked across the sky. The horses panicked again, kicking at the fences. Colt rushed out to calm them, but one of the old fences gave way. A large stallion bolted, charging straight toward the open field. Without thinking, Tessa limped after Colt, shouting his name. He turned just as the stallion neared, his eyes wide with fear. Not for himself, but for her. The same terror he'd felt the night Marla died surged through him. He ran toward her, shoving her out of the way as the animal thundered past. They both fell to the ground hard, rain drenching them. She looked up at him, tears mixing with the rain. "Why would you do that?" she gasped. Colt caught his breath, his voice trembling. "Because I couldn't lose someone again." "Not you." The storm raged, but something in them calmed. When dawn came, the ranch was quiet again, and the light that filled the horizon felt like the first real morning of their lives. Over breakfast, she looked at him with a small, tired smile. "You saved me twice now," she said. Colt shook his head, his eyes soft. "No, you saved me, Tessa. I just didn't know I needed saving." That day, as the sun rose higher, Tessa stood by the barn door, looking at the hills stretching endlessly ahead. "I think I want to stay," she said. "Maybe just for a while. There's still something here I need to learn." Colt nodded. "You're welcome as long as you need. This place could use a little life again." Weeks turned into months, and the ranch slowly bloomed with new energy. Tessa helped Colt open a small rescue center for injured horses. Her nursing skills and his ranching knowledge made them an unstoppable pair. Together, they saved animals, mended fences, and healed hearts, one quiet day at a time. Every sunset, Colt would find her by the coral, brushing Willow's mane, the silver locket resting against her chest. Sometimes she'd whisper softly to the sky, telling her lost fiancé she was okay now. And sometimes, Colt would look toward the same sky and tell Marla that he finally forgave himself. The pain never vanished, but it transformed. It became a reminder that brokenness can lead to beauty if we're brave enough to face it. And on one particularly calm afternoon, as the horses grazed and the world felt still, Tessa turned to Colt and said, "You were right, you know. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning how to live again." Colt smiled, tipping his hat. "Guess we both did."